Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to a Tall Girls podcast hosted by a tall girl named India. I hope everyone who's tuning in today is doing super fantastic. Before I get into this episode, I do want to say make sure you follow me on my socials at a Tall Girls podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest so that you can stay up to date on all of the latest podcast episodes and catch a glimpse of my everyday life. Also, feel free to leave me a review and let me know how tall you are. I'm genuinely curious. Everything is going to be linked in the description. Happy spring break to some of you guys. A lot of colleges had spring break up to this point. There are even teachers who I follow on Instagram who are currently in spring break or already had their spring break. So happy spring break to you guys. I'm patiently waiting for mine. Patiently waiting for mine. Usually spring break is much earlier. Last year spring break was around the time of my birthday. So it was basically like the first week-ish of April. Usually it's around that time, but for some reason, some unknown, really bad reason, they have decided to put spring break at the end of April when it's basically May. I mean, to be fair, at this point, it's only a couple days away, but I'm just confused as to why I had to wait so long when everybody else was getting their break, enjoying their time outside and all that stuff. And I'm just sitting here struggling with school. I mean, I'm not going to complain too much, but having it a little bit earlier would have been nicer, especially when everybody else was having it. But hey, it's a few days away. Hopefully the weather is nice. All I will be doing is, well, yes, I have to do schoolwork and work, but I will also be sitting in the grass. I'm also on the hunt to find new things to do in the city. I kind of want to take some time to, explore where I live. I feel like as a New Yorker, I don't do that as much as I could. So if you live in New York City or there are places in New York City that you visited and you think would be super cool, to recommend, just hit me up, let me know. I'll create a list, I'll create an itinerary, if you will, and I will try to visit them during my break, of course. I just want to take the time to also give a genuine thank you because a lot of you guys have messaged me over on Instagram specifically, wishing me a happy birthday and sending me birthday wishes and other things. And I really do appreciate it. It was so thoughtful because it's like, I met some of you guys on the internet. Like, if you think about it, you guys are low-key strangers. Strangers, but also my friends. Because it's weird because, like, we formed this connection online, but I've never met any of you in person, which is crazy to me. So it's kind of like, you didn't necessarily have to wish me a happy birthday, but you guys did, and I really appreciate all of the messages. So I just wanted to give a genuine thank you for that. I really do appreciate you guys. Now, moving on to today's topic, we are talking about the negative labels that tall women get, basically the names that we've been called and we continue to be called. Here are just a few labels that tall women are given: Amazonian, giant, giraffe, lanky, mommy long legs. That's a pretty popular one. Goofy, skyscraper. I mean, shall I go on? Let me know if you've been called any of those. I can definitely say that I've been called quite a few of those, especially mommy long legs and skyscraper, and also goofy because I was pretty clumsy growing up. Didn't really have too much control over my limbs, so I'm basically tripping over air half of the time. And I will definitely say a bulk of it came around the time of middle school / beginning of high school. I don't know what it is with like 5th through 9th graders that, they think it's super cool to be going overboard with these things. But yeah, they do like to do that. So yeah, it was by peers, classmates, acquaintances, sometimes friends. But I'm not gonna lie, even as a 22-year-old adult, yes, as a 22-year-old adult, you still kind of get these names. Definitely less frequently, but from time to time, especially from people who are older than you, from other adults. which is a little concerning in my opinion. And I'm sure, as some of you guys know, there are definitely interesting and different meanings behind some of these labels. Like Amazon, for example, basically describes a big, strong, warrior-like woman, something similar to mythical Greek woman warriors. Now, at first hearing that, it sounds like a compliment, but it can also have a negative connotation. It can also indicate large, big, aggressive even, and not everyone necessarily wants to be tied to those characteristics. I mean, it's one thing if you want to be seen as those things, then it may be a compliment for them. They may take that really well, but there are others who don't necessarily want to be tied to those characteristics because they want to give off something else. And you saying that could potentially offend them in a way. And in my opinion, it's a little weird, just a little bit, but that's just my opinion. So it's probably better to just not say any of these labels at all because, you know, they can sting a bit. Sometimes things just come out, or sometimes people get confused. Just as an example, an old man called me sir the other day. I've heard of that happening to other tall women before, like being called sir, but when it happens to you, it hits a little different. And when he first heard me speak, he apologized because he realized that I'm in fact not a sir. But it really had me thinking, like, does my height really make me look like a sir? No tea, no shade, of course, because number one, it was an honest mistake, I guess you could say. And number two, I don't necessarily identify as a sir. That's why I was a little bit confused. Before I continue, I would like to give a shout out to Karai for sponsoring today's episode. To my long torso girlies out there, your cries and complaints have been heard because this brand is the solution you've been longing for. Karai is your go-to destination for stunning bodysuits designed specifically for women with long torsos. So say goodbye to awkward fits and constant readjustments, and hello to flawless style, comfort, and the perfect fit. Make sure you check them out at wearekarai.com and at wearkarai on Instagram. They'll be linked in my description. And let's go. Hashtag long torso gang. I think the most hurtful label is that tall girl. Oh yeah, that tall girl from our class. Oh, that tall girl standing over there. You know, like we're nothing more than our height. I mean, I get it for identification purposes, but let's not go overboard with that. A lot of these labels, even though it may not meant to be taken in that way or said in that way, tend to have negative connotations to them. Like, we already feel big and out of place, and we know that we stick out sometimes like a sore thumb. So calling us these things is just like a reminder of that. And that can be a little bit uncomfortable. So many things within society never fail to remind us of this. Just a couple examples. In many movies and TV shows, the male actors tend to go for the short, pretty actresses. Many of the trendy fashion items for women are made for the women with smaller features. Even something like culture can shape your perceptions of height and body type and how that relates to gender. So the labeling and the borderline stereotyping does make us feel some type of way because of a lot of things, including the way that we are portrayed in the media. Because the media definitely has a big influence on people's judgments of others, people's thoughts of others, people's opinions of others. So how people see us being portrayed in the media, if that even makes any sense, affects their thoughts of us, and then that also affects how they act towards us. So a lot of these labels, the way that they're used like in mainstream media, they're not always going to sit right with us. And then when people use it, we're literally thinking about how it's used negatively, and people don't really think too much about how that affects us. And I'm not saying that they absolutely have to, because I'm pretty sure they have a lot of other thoughts going on in their heads, but it's also just something to be aware of. Names and labels do have an effect on others. Simply put, you're not going to go up to a short person and call them munchkin or peanut and think that that's okay. So why are you going to go up to a tall person and call them goofy or Bigfoot? Make it make sense. So why shouldn't you call a tall woman Amazon? Because you don't know how she is going to take it. Some of us will take it well. Some of us will see it as a compliment. Others will think of the negative characteristics that are also tied to that word and see that as an insult. So, just to avoid, hurting anybody's feelings, maybe it's best to not use that term. But like I said, that's just my opinion. Because after so many years of bullying and height shaming, I'm going to think that you are trying to insult me. The only difference between then and now is how I handle the situation. So please, if you're going to go around giving someone a label, this goes for anyone in general. If you're going to go around giving someone a label or call somebody a name or something like that, just think a little bit before you let the words come out of your mouth. Anyways, I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. As always, feel free to hit me up on my socials at A Tall Girls Podcast. They're going to be linked in the description. Let me know what you think about this episode. Let me know what you think about this podcast. Let me know what you think about life in general. I'm always down for a chit chat, as long as it's appropriate, of course. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, week, month, year, whatever it is for you. And good night and goodbye.